Oh, I am streaming. Okay, so I'm gonna hold on. Uh, uh, what? How do I? How do I go to? Oh, how do I go to? Oh, I'm live. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can raid you now. Okay. Oh my God, this was so horrible. Okay, let me see. Let me see now. Jesus. Edit. Boom. Am I ready to myself? Yes, I am. Uh, oh my God. This is so annoying. Uh, okay. How do I allow people to raid me? Okay, there you go. All channels can raid to you now. Lucy has a network. Yes, okay. We are raiding into myself. I will see you in a moment if you're still here. Bye bye. This one's ended. Okay. And this one's on now. There you go. And it should be still up on the page, right? Uh, There you go. Oh, this worked. Kind of. Is anybody here? Right. I'm gonna do a quick test, and then later I'm gonna turn it into like a segment. Hello, Zoxialix. Oh my God, hello. See? So this is going to be for politics moving forward. What do you think? Is this a good idea? Is splitting it like this a good idea? What do you think, Zoxialix? Am I being smart about this? Or am I being dumb? We'll find out with time, okay? Experimentation is good. There's nothing better than experimentation. Experimentation is king of the jungle. I love experimenting. Okay, so we're gonna do one political segment, okay, for good measure. We're gonna be talking about Greenland, of course. We're gonna be talking about Trump and how he is insane, which is not news. That is not a new revelation. It shouldn't be a new revelation for anybody, but let me react. This is the layout for the new thing, okay? So we're gonna add a browser window. Window capture, browser, bam. Okay, we're gonna add it here. And bam. There you go. How do you like the layout? How's this? Any thoughts on the layout? We're gonna be getting there slowly. Today's an experiment stream. Zotsialix, you're my tester. I wonder. You there? There you go. Oh. All right. Let's get people to come here. To the new channel. I have to. I might have to start streaming sooner. I wonder how I'm going to make this work, logically speaking. I'm gonna do one political topic, then we're gonna end this test run, and it's gonna be fine. It's all gonna be fine. All right. Oof. I'm gonna pretend that I have like 1,000 viewers or something. So, Trump's being very aggressively threatening to annex Greenland. Trump has been actually riding the wave of the successful invasion of Venezuela, and Trump has basically been running on rhetoric of we're going to acquire Greenland whether you like it or not. We can either do it the easy way, we can do it the hard way, we can either buy it or we can invade it. And he has been putting tariffs, or rather threatening tariffs, on all the European countries that did not agree with his rhetoric of getting Greenland. And there was a very big pushback in Europe when it came to the idea of just the United States deciding to violate the sovereignty of a European ally, not just a European ally, a NATO ally. That is a very important distinction. Because if a NATO country would decide to invade a NATO country, that would basically spell the doom of NATO itself. And of course, there's the rhetoric of Donald Trump, who has claimed that Greenland cannot defend itself, putting into question the whole idea of NATO deterrence. There's been a lot of messy elements to this whole Greenland thing, but now Trump has apparently backed off of Greenland. Trump has decided that he will not use force to invade Greenland. He has made a statement officially, even though earlier he has been really trying to strongman, saying that he will invade, that he's not afraid to do it, that China and Russia are on the brink of invading and taking over Greenland themselves. He said that he will definitely remember should European countries oppose him. And now we are in a situation in which Trump has suddenly claimed that he has had a very good conversation with the chief of NATO, and a great deal has been settled on. One that will give everybody what they want, and has caused Trump to back off of threatening to use the military to take over Greenland. He has backed off of Greenland. That is the current interpretation of events. This is where we are now, which is interpreted basically as Trump utilizing his art of the deal strategy, moving in hard with unreasonable demands, only to back off and make the other side feel like winners. Although this is not something that I feel like there's more to that. Because Europe has been considering some really aggressive financial retaliation against the United States. And I feel like Congress has pushed against Trump enough. And also apparently the military itself was not so keen on invading Greenland. Apparently Trump has found himself, apart from his cabinet, which will always nod and say yes to whatever he says, Trump has met with enough opposition that he was basically forced to back off of his ideas of conquest in this territory that is only allegedly protected by 2 sleds. Donald Trump's renewed push to negotiate the acquisition of Greenland has laid bare a hard-edged negotiating doctrine and exposed how far relations between Washington and its allies have shifted Speaking at the Davos summit, Trump argued that it's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, basically saying that, first of all, Trump does not need NATO. That's first of all. The United States is the only power that can defend Greenland. NATO as a unified system, as an alliance, is basically worthless. The only party that counts is the United States, which he basically started actually attacking NATO. He started attacking NATO more aggressively. It is worth noting that he has said that NATO allies were worthless in Afghanistan, that they stayed away from the front line, that the United States never asked allies to help, that the United States did not need NATO allies, even though the only time in the history of NATO existing, the only time when the Article 5 has been invoked was by the United States. But apparently the United States actually did not need anybody and did not ask anybody for help, even though it used Article 5, which basically is asking, well, not basically, it is asking NATO allies for help. Trump warned European partners that they could say yes or they could say no to Trump acquiring Greenland, and we will remember. The remarks triggered swift pushback across Europe, with a string of leaders rejecting any challenge to Danish sovereignty, because, again, that would basically mean that NATO as a concept would be dead. The moment Trump would enter Greenland using force, that would mean NATO as a military alliance would be dead in the water. According to Stuart Dowell, political editor at TVP World, the episode reflects a familiar Trump strategy. It's straight out of his book, The Art of the Deal, Dowell said. You go in with outrageously high demands, create fear and confusion, and then retreat looks like a win for the other side, which I honestly do not think that is the case in here. Trump's retreat, however, may not have been entirely planned, Dowell noted. Mounting pressure from Europe, from the US Congress, and even from within the military, crossing the line of sovereignty is often where resistance hardens, he said. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the de-escalation as a reflection of pragmatism and common sense. I do not trust Trump to have either. I do not trust Trump to be pragmatic. I do not trust Trump to have common sense. So, while NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte hailed the outcome as a really good deal for everybody, which is not surprising because NATO Secretary Mark Rutte has been embarrassing when it comes to praising Trump, when it comes to brown-nosing Trump, actually. Peace board plan faltering. And yes, there's this whole fiasco of a peace board, which no European country, like little to no major European countries have agreed to join. It consists of countries like Russia, Belarus, I think Vietnam joined it. There's a list of those countries that joined the peace. Well, let me get it. Let me fetch it for you. The peace. Let me fetch it for you real quick. Where is it? More. Bookmarks. Where is it? Where is the list of the countries? I have it somewhere around here. So, there you go. Trump's Board of Peace: Belarus, Morocco, Vietnam, Kazakhstan, Hungary, Armenia, Egypt, Kosovo, Pakistan, Paraguay, Albania, Uzbekistan, Bahrain, Qatar, and Indonesia. So basically no European countries have joined this peace board. Nobody wanted to join it. Nobody wanted to be on a board of peace together with Russia and Belarus, for one. At the same time, Trump's separate initiative, the so-called Board of Peace, which, by the way, he said that people would have to pay $1 billion to join because, there's nothing like having an elite board of peace that you have to pay a whole lot of money to join, appears to be faltering. While framed as a mechanism to stabilize post-conflict zones such as Gaza, several key countries, including China, have declined to sign on. Which, that's because it's a joke. It's a joke, this peace board. I don't even know what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to function. Why do countries have to pay $1 billion? What is this money supposed to be used for? None of that. There's just a vague concept without any direction, without any plan. It's dead on arrival. The optics were striking, Dowell said. The room was packed when Trump spoke about Greenland. It was half empty when the Board of Peace was unveiled. For many European leaders, the Greenland episode has become a test case. As Canada's Mark Carney warned, sovereignty remains the ultimate red line, and when it is crossed, alliances can shift in unexpected ways. Yeah, basically, Trump is just the only thing that Trump is managing to very effectively achieve during his presidency, during his second term, is destroying the international rules-based order, basically doing away with the idea of international law. Those are his achievements. And also moving towards a new world order in which big countries would rule over their would just rule over their spheres of influence. That is basically the world that we are moving towards. And Trump's art of the deal worked again, but the returns are diminishing. Greenland is the clearest demonstration yet of how US President Donald Trump applies the pattern he laid out decades ago in The Art of the Deal, his book on business and bargaining, using fear, confusion, and escalation as leverage. I mean, yeah, Trump certainly confuses. Trump certainly is unorthodox, and in my opinion, it is far simpler than it seems. He is a person that admires strongmen. He is a person that wants to be a strongman himself. He wants to build a legacy because he is quite old. And he finds the world of spheres of influence to be far more attractive than international rules-based order. That much is clear. After threatening force and tariffs inflating his demands, disorienting his opponents, which, again, the problem with Trump is that he treats his allies as opponents and treats adversary countries as friends. He treats Europe, which are his NATO allies, as opponents, and he treats Vladimir Putin as a close friend. Hinting at rupture, Trump has now retreated to what US officials call a framework for the future of Greenland, expanded American presence, security arrangements, and maybe even pockets of sovereignty. The scale back was just enough to make the revised position look like de-escalation and a diplomatic win for Denmark and its allies. Trump may genuinely have wanted full sovereignty and been forced to withdraw under resistance from Europe governments, financial markets, and within the United States itself. But the fingerprints of the art of the deal are still clear. Mistaking noise for strategy. What is striking is how commentary has responded. In coverage of what was probably the most consequential speech of the year, much of the European press has fixated on Trump's personality, his rambling delivery, his bullying tone, his habit of distorting facts, his chaos, his stream of consciousness, his casual insults, and his talk of Greenland as mere piece of ice. And also the fact that he mistook Greenland for Iceland, but I guess that's neither here nor there. I guess that's just his dementia talking, his strategic dementia. That misses the point. Trump is an enabler, not the Trump is the enabler, not the strategy. He is the delivery system for an America First movement carrying out a political revolution inside the United States and projecting it outward, or rather turning the United States into an autocratic state. By now, the mechanism is visible enough to be codified. It follows a four-step cycle. First, anchor the negotiation absurdly high. Second, create emotional shock through public threats or insults. Third, signal flexibility only after the opposition is disoriented. Fourth, declare victory regardless of the outcome. Well, unfortunately, his mechanism, his playbook does not seem to be getting him anywhere with Ukraine. Unfortunately, Vladimir Putin seems to be quite immune to his famous Art of the Deal playbook. This playbook relies on the factual distortion. Trump has claimed the US paid 100% of NATO's costs and suggested Greenland was essentially American territory. The goal of these fabrications is not to win a debate on the merits. It is to psychologically reorder the room, forcing the other side to defend reality rather than advance their own interests. Why calling Trump crazy fails? Much of the European press still treats this behavior as erratic, incoherent, or simply irrational. That instinct is understandable, but it is lazy. Calling Trump crazy focuses only on the poise and swaps analysis of power for armchair psychology. Writing him off may feel satisfying, but it explains nothing and prepares Europe for even less. Once the noise is stripped away, Trump is remarkably predictable. Much of Trump's agenda has been relatively stable since 2016. Sovereignty supersedes multilateralism. Power relations supersede institutions, and politics is a permanent war of perception. Yeah, power relations. There you go. He wants a world of power relations. Might makes right world order, not institutions and international law. Trump acts in line with the America First worldview that now shapes the US right. He treats the liberal international order as already broken, alliances as transactions rather than commitments, and power as something exercised directly rather than mediated through rules. And that is exactly why he also basically flushed the soft power that the United States had down the toilet by gutting US aid. Those views show up in concrete moves demanding higher NATO spending as a condition of protection, using tariffs as geopolitical weapons, and framing Greenland's sovereignty as negotiable. Whether or one agrees with that diagnosis is beside the point. He floods the zone with contradictory tweets and insults not because he is confused, but because confusion pushes his adversaries onto the defensive. A tactic with diminishing returns. Greenland pushed his method to its outer limit. Trump spoke openly of right title and ownership, dismissing the island as a lump of ice, which, by the way, he has mistaken Greenland with Iceland. Unlike NATO or trade disputes where the leverage is economic or military, here the demand was territorial. Fear works best the first time, but shock loses potency with repetition. Following the Greenland threats, market volatility spiked, and even far-right leaders in Europe began to openly question the logic of US decision-making. Cabinet officials were left unable to explain the policy caught between a president demanding purchase and a State Department trying to maintain diplomatic norms. And of course, there's a lot of what he does is very illogical. Trump wants European countries to join the peace board. That is an example of what Trump doing not making any sense. But he invited Putin and Lukashenko to that peace board. And Putin is at war with Ukraine. Europe is supporting Ukraine. So why would Europe want to join a peace board together with Putin? Especially countries like Poland. Trump has invited Poland. Trump has invited Ukraine to this peace board. And Zelensky has just declined outright. Because imagine Ukraine and Russia being at war and being on a peace board together. Zelensky and Putin. Just imagine it. Ridiculous. Okay? Another dangerous misunderstanding in Europe is the belief that Trump is the sole author of this disruption. He is not. Trump did not invent America first. He adopted it. He gave it mass legitimacy, media saturation, and political force. But the ideology predates him. There is a sophisticated ecosystem of think tanks, legal scholars, and political operatives who view the post-1945 order as a bad deal for the United States. Trump provides the political gel to bring them together under one umbrella, but behind him a serious political movement is building the machinery to dismantle the administrative state and reorient foreign policy. Trump is the enabler, a conductor of the orchestra, but not the writer of the sheet music. Canada and China. Resistance is beginning to take intellectual shape. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney was convincing in Davos when he rejected jungle logic. He argued that the global economy cannot function if the rule of law is replaced by the law of the strongest. True. I agree with that. And it's just ridiculous it is ridiculous that we are where we are, where the world seems to be moving away from this sort of rules-based order, when the world seems to be moving away from international law, when many things that we have thought so hard to establish are just being thrown away in order to establish, once again, might makes right, and whoever is the strongest in the area has the right to dictate to smaller countries what they can and cannot do. Carney's intervention was one of the clearest calls so far for collective resistance rather than bilateral submission, with Canada itself as the example. It signals a shift from panic to strategy. Faced with American coercion, allies are building insurance policies against US volatility. Canada is recalibrating relations with China. Europe is accelerating trade diversification through its Mercosur deal. Though stalled by the European Parliament decision to refer the deal to the EU Court of Justice. This is a familiar pattern in international politics. When one state bullies, it often pushes others into new, sometimes unlikely alignments, aimed less at partnership than at protection. The end of the illusion. Europe keeps analyzing Trump's mood, his tone, and his psychology. That is the wrong level of analysis. The mechanics of the art of the deal are now visible enough that they are unlikely to work indefinitely. Allies can be shocked once, pressured twice, perhaps even 3 times, but they surely won't remain permanently disoriented. And this is where we are now. We are now stuck with a United States president that treats friends as enemies, enemies as friends, and wants to completely do away with the current state of affairs. I certainly hope that Europe can get its act together. I certainly hope that Europe will not allow itself to be sidelined, fractured, weakened, and decommissioned. And a lot of things depend on how Europe will act. And we will see. Maybe Europe will decide to get closer to China, which is not as much as not ideal. It is. It might be the course that Europe might be forced to take in order to counterbalance what is happening with Trump. And also there is ever-present topic of the war in Ukraine, which also, that the outcome of which also depends on how much Europe can stand together, because as part of his overarching strategy, Trump has basically all but abandoned Ukraine. He has done everything that he can to give it over to Russia. He has pushed for a peace plan that is all but surrender, giving up territory, the most fortified territory, asking nothing of Russia in return. He might have backed off from Greenland for the time being, but his overall plans, his overall thinking of how the world should operate definitely has not. So I guess we will once again have to see how things develop. Tomorrow I will be looking through some speeches from the Economic Congress, because those were interesting and I think they are worth going back to and looking over. In particular, I'd like to watch the Trump speech. I'd like to watch the Zelensky speech. Maybe we'll take a look at the Canadian president's speech. But we'll see. We'll see tomorrow. Okay. I think we're done with the test run for the stream. Thank you. This is the new channel for politics. We'll try to keep it this way. We'll try to keep the separation between the channels, gaming, politics, and the third one for war journalism related material. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. I will try to formalize a plan for when I will stream games and when I will stream politics, and a timetable for it all. Okay, see you. Bye-bye.